The Bank of England gets set to make its policy decision on rates this Thursday, and no change is expected, while August is still firmly in the balance. Now, my next guest says that Governor Mark Carney's successor shouldn't be jetted in from overseas. Now, I'm outside the Bank of England, and I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Andrew Sentance, who's a former Bank of England policymaker and current advisor to PwC. Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start there. Does that imply that you think Mark Carney hasn't been doing his job properly?
Well, I think it's very difficult for somebody who's not been familiar with the detail of the UK economy over a long period to come in and then take such an important job as Governor of the Bank of England. So I think particularly facing the challenges of Brexit, facing the challenge that we do actually need to get interest rates up to a more normal level, I think it would be good to have somebody who's got quite a deep understanding of the way the UK economic and financial system operates to manage those challenges.
So would you be interested in the role, or who do you think would be well positioned to take up that job?
Well, I'm not sure I'm flavour of the month with the people who take that decision, but you know, there are some inside candidates. I think the strongest is Andrew Bailey, who's currently running the Financial Conduct Authority, and I'm sure there'll be some outside candidates, people from the city or the business world, who have a good track record of working within the UK economy and have the necessary understanding.
Now, Carney said that the MPC is more likely than not to raise rates by the end of the year. Why do you think that the MPC is so reluctant to raise rates at this time?
Well, first of all, I think we have to be a bit wary about Mark Carney's statements, because he's made these types of statements before and then something different happens. I think the reason for reluctance is the bank doesn't have the confidence that actually small rises in interest rates won't harm growth and will actually help them in the challenge of keeping down inflation. Now, I have more confidence about that, and in some ways actually small rises in interest rates could actually help economic growth, because they're going to boost the returns to savers, and they're going to give a bit more support to the pound and take some of the pressures off consumers.
So when do you think the next hike's going to be?
Well, I've given up predicting, really. I do hope that they will seriously consider it in August and not back away. If you want to have gradual rises in interest rates, you have to start probably quite early, and we haven't started early. That's the only way you're going to get gradual rises in interest rates, and the worry is that when interest rate rises come, they'll be sharper and more disruptive to the economy than they really need to be.
Now, the Bank of England thinks that inflation is on the way up on the back of higher oil prices before then moving down to around 2%. I'm wondering what your outlook is for prices.
Well, I think inflation is going to be stuck at around about 2.5%, close to where it is now, over the summer. It probably will subside back towards a 2% rate. But we've had quite a long period now where it's been over that 2% rate. And the Bank of England has been very slow to take action, and yet that is their formal target.
Now, the BCC downgraded its outlook for economic growth just today. I'm wondering why you think the growth is so slow, given where we are in terms of the labour market, unemployment at its best level since 1975.
Well, I think part of the problem is slow productivity growth, but if you look at more short-term effects, it's the squeeze on consumers from higher inflation and also Brexit uncertainty. And those factors haven't been so pronounced in other countries, and that's why we're seeing slower growth, the slowest growth actually, in the major Western economies here in the UK at the moment.
So a lot of economists are saying that we could be starting to see the early warning signs of a potential recession. And I'm wondering whether you think there are any parallels between what we're seeing now and 2006, before the GFC, when you joined the MPC.
I don't think we're seeing signs of recession, which we would have to see more broadly across the global economy. Now, growth in the global economy does fluctuate a bit, but I don't think we're seeing a pronounced downward shift internationally. And all the major recessions that we've seen in the UK since the 1970s have been associated with global economic downturns. So I think as long as the global economy remains strong, then the UK will perform okay in terms of growth, but obviously with some of the negative factors at the moment, it's lagging behind some other countries.
Now, you tweeted last week that the UK is now in a low growth, high inflation champion of the major EU economies thanks Brexit. So what are you most concerned about when it comes to Brexit and the economy?
Well, I think we've seen two major negative impacts. One is the squeeze on consumer spending, which is likely to ease a little bit over the next year or two, but consumer spending is still likely to remain quite sluggish. And then we've seen the impact of uncertainty affecting investment. And we're not seeing companies shutting down plants or making very big cancellations in investment plans, but at the margin, they're much more reluctant to invest than they were. And that has an impact on growth because investment is a very important component of growth in the UK economy.
And do you think that Westminster politics are getting in the way of us getting a good deal on Brexit?
Well, I think we're not in a very strong position in terms of getting a good deal, in the sense that the government is having to negotiate with itself as much as it's having to negotiate with the rest of the EU. So on many key issues like trade, customs union, single market, there's still major divisions within the government. And that makes it that much harder for us to get a really good deal.
Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. That was Andrew Sentance, former Bank of England policymaker and current advisor to PwC, joining me outside the Bank of England. I'm Victoria Scholar, thanks for watching and good luck trading.
Subscribe to IG for educational content, company insight, financial analysis and expert commentary.